All right, guys, welcome back to Moms Without Filter. So, last week we had stated we were going to do feminine this week, but we actually changed it up a little bit. Not a little bit, okay, it's quite a bit. But we're going to focus on domestic violence this episode, simply because there's just been a lot of domestic violence around us, kind of touched us personally, affected our lives in the past. And so we kind of just wanted to get into that for this week.
Okay, so recently, both me and Nani have had a couple lives that were not just affected by domestic violence, but taken at very young ages. It's been increasingly common in like the small community I live in, like and surrounding communities. A lot of women have women a lot younger than both of us have lost their
Mhm.
lives as mothers, and it's crazy how common domestic violence is. As Nani said, we both have experienced some form of domestic violence, including mental, in our lives. When I was 17, I was with somebody for about 7 years who was mentally and physically abusive to the point where there was many times that I thought I was going to die, or I was afraid to tell anybody. I was afraid to talk about it because I thought it was going to make things worse. Not now so much. Like, I definitely am not a victim of anything except for circumstance. It just happened to be that way. But one thing I really wanted to talk about is that a lot of people think of domestic violence as people being psychotic, and which is true, but a lot of people that face domestic violence or are the ones causing it are people that were abused in some way throughout their lifetime, whether it's mental or physical. They go through some kind of aggression in their lifetime. Like the person that
Mhm.
did it to me experienced abuse in their lifetime, and then it became generational and it was passed down. So that's one thing I definitely wanted to address here is hurt people definitely hurt people. It's very common, and unfortunately it's more common now. I don't really know how to say it. I don't want to say, like, if you are a person doing these things, like, understand that you are passing these things down to your children and other people, because people can go from a relationship where they're the person being abused to the next relationship where they're the person doing the abusing. So,
Mhm.
but I wanted to go over a few facts here. It says that almost 1 in 5 women in the United States reported any kind of contact with sexual violence or psychological by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And slightly more than 2 in 5 women in the United States reported experiencing like severe aggression, severe violence. But another thing is almost half of all women reported psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. So mental is a huge part of it,
Mhm.
more than violent parts of it. I feel like people don't realize how common it is, like mental and physical abuse. Like, because most people don't talk about it. They're like, not like they don't go out and say, hey, this is what's happening at home, because they're afraid.
Right.
So I think that I'm trying to like phrase this where I don't want to like offend anybody. I feel like that from my personal experience, from being afraid and then like going to the authorities, I don't think people should be afraid. I think that if you
No.
are in a scary situation, you should seek help before it becomes too late.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And I know that it is a very sensitive subject, and we kind of don't want to be like saying anything that would offend anybody who is in those circumstances. Trust and believe, we've both experienced some sort of abuse. Mine was more, growing up as a young child, but it all stems from just like you said, people who are hurt like to hurt other people. And it's very scary to be in situations like that. And it is hard. I mean, I've seen it a couple of times, how hard it can be when you're dealing with a narcissist and they're just constantly, they're like love bombing you and then they're abusive. You know what I mean? So, like, it's that cycle of, oh no, babe, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, I would never,
I'm
ever.
sorry, it won't happen again. Yeah.
Right. Right. And that's the part where it's hard for some because in their mind, yes, they should leave, but there's other factors, maybe there's children involved or maybe they just really are deeply in love with them. And like I said, narcissistic people have ways of controlling you and making you feel like you need to stay there in that situation, but ultimately you do not. But it's up to that person who's in that situation. It has to be their decision to want to leave,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't force anybody to do anything, nor should we force anybody to do anything. But like I said, it's a very touchy subject because all we want to do is help people to be able to extend that arm, reach out if they are struggling, if they're having problems and they just don't know what to do or where to go. But then there's others who are like, hey, everything is okay, I'm fine, even though they're sitting deeply into it. It just all takes time for them to realize it themselves, how to go about the situation. But I did just want to talk, a little bit about the reasons why some people who are abusing others, of course, learned behavior is definitely one of them. So, learned behavior growing up in a family where domestic violence was just something they saw all the time. There's also culture beliefs that they have the right to control you. I know a lot of different cultures. The men look at a woman and they look at them as their property versus a human being, or, like their significant other. And then, of course, like you said, the psychological disorder or personality disorder. Drugs and alcohol is a
A
big
big.
one, huge. And if you're doing drugs and alcohol and you have anger issues and you're jealous and you have low self-esteem, that's just like the ultimate combo for somebody to just start abusing you. And it might not be physical at first, it might just be abusive. Like I said, a lot of narcissistic people have using their words so powerfully. I've witnessed it, I've had it done to me where it's a constant praise of love, show you love. They want to be in love with you, and then the shame
Oh yeah.
calling, or like, hey, you look disgusting, or why are you wearing that, like, who told you you can do that, and all this other stuff. Like, it's so hard. I don't want to go into too much details
I
about
can I can
anything.
give an example of that 100% because the what you're saying, like how they're like, super nice and everything. That's how
Hmm.
it was like with my relationship. It started out I didn't even know he was gonna be like that. I mean, like I knew that he went through that as a child and it not only experienced it but saw it like happen in his family. But he was like so sweet, he did all these things. Oh, I love you. I was young, I was dumb, and I believed a lot of the things he was saying,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it started, and he would apologize constantly, and then try to make it up to me. And then it wouldn't happen for a while, of course. And then the more as time went on, it would happen more frequently. And like you said, it would be over the dumbest shit. He wouldn't always be
Hmm.
drunk. There would be a point in time like he didn't care for my opinion on something we were watching. Like I couldn't, and then he would do things like spit in my face, make me sit on the floor. Like he would. It was not just about being violent and angry towards somebody. It was about breaking somebody down, making somebody feel like less than you.
Like the piece of shit that they just stepped on
Yeah,
outside.
exactly. And I don't think, and like I don't hold anything negative against people in my past or his family or anything because I know what he went through. I'm not going to be like friends with the person, but
Hmm.
I understand like it wasn't always intentional. I know that it was psychological because the depression and the stuff that he was facing was coming as I was the target. And it wasn't like, I don't really know how to say it because you can't truly care about somebody and do those things,
Correct.
but you can care about somebody and not know how to be the right person in a
Hmm.
relationship. So I
So
get what you're trying to say for sure.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things to look out for. If you're not in that type of situation, there's always red flags. If you're dating, you're out there in the dating pool, there's just some things that you should watch out for, whether it be in women or in men. There's just a lot of I hate to say like red flags, yes. Like obviously there's always red flags, but the people who are doing it and who have been doing it are very good at keeping that at bay at
Mm-hmm.
first. So it's not easy to determine a lot of the factors, per se. But if you know that there's some type of childhood trauma, or if you see that, they talk down on themselves a lot, or if they get angry very easily, like let's say you accidentally spill your water and, they're just like, what the, or if you just recently started dating and they're questioning who you're messaging and um stuff like that, I would say like
Like
kind of,
stalkerish. Like,
yeah, I
why
would
are you
just,
talking to this person? What are you doing with this person?
yeah, and you've like known each other for like maybe 2 weeks at that point. I would just be vigilant, not saying don't go out there and date, obviously date, but be vigilant. And if you are somebody who's in that situation, protect yourself as much as you can. And when you're ready to get out of that situation, there's a whole bunch of resources that you can, extend yourself to so that you can get help. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so this is it's a such a tough topic to talk about. I didn't really think how tough it would be. It's just sad.
It's very sad.
So recently, because a lot of these domestic violence situations end up in death, and I
Mm.
think I want to get my stats correct here.
No, you're good.
So it says that domestic violence fatalities are a serious issue with significant numbers of deaths occurring annually. It says in the United States there's over 1,500 deaths that are attributed to domestic violence alone each year. It says a large population of these deaths, are homicide, which it says here that percentage involving an intimate partner. So, not necessarily saying that there was domestic violence involved, but they killed their partner. So, they were obviously not happy, or they were obsessed with their partner and didn't want them to leave. Recently, it occurred in my family, actually in Puerto Rico. My On my mother's side. So it's my mom's cousin, but we call her my aunt. If you're Puerto Rican, you would understand it. Everybody's your aunt if they're over a certain age. Just put it that way. Her name Gloria Diaz. She's 53. She has a daughter, 28 years old, Linda. And unfortunately, on the 13th, Linda was shot and killed by her boyfriend. There was no signs of domestic abuse with this guy in her relationship. It came out that he did have domestic violence charge against him from a previous relationship, and he actually got charged for that in 2016. But ultimately, yeah, he shot her, killed her, and then shot at Gloria 3 times, and she ended up in the hospital. Thankfully, she is doing a lot better. She's no longer in critical condition and she's alive, but now she has to live with that. Her daughter's gone, and her daughter also had 2 kids. Wasn't with him. This was a fairly new relationship, 9 months in, and he actually ended up killing himself as well. So it's sad because situations shouldn't have to end like that. But it all ties in as well with the state of people's minds and why it's so important to keep your mental health at bay. Like you don't, it's so hard. Because I get it as a mom who works, take cares of her kids, cleans the house, and all this other stuff. Like I understand how not taking care of myself would be easy, but I feel like everybody should take care of themselves, men, women. We are all dealing with something, and it's sad. But the fact that we have men and women dying at the hands of their partners is crazy to me. I mean, the amount of shit that we deal with on this earth is crazy to me, but we're talking about domestic violence today,
I
so.
mean, but it all kind of goes together because
But it
mental health.
all, yeah, it all goes together, which is why we need to just be kind because we don't know what's going on in somebody's life at home. And, it's sad. It sucks because now there's two babies who don't have their mom. She was only 28 years old, younger than me. Like I'm 32. Oh my God, am I 32 or 31? I don't even know. I'm
Oh my
around
god.
there. I'm in that Bay Area. But yeah, this episode is a little, it's not over yet. This episode is a little, it's a little much. I didn't think that it would be this much for me, but it is kind of overwhelming for me just because it's so sad. Nobody should have to go through that. No child should have to fucking go through anything like that. This is the world that we live in, unfortunately.
Very unfortunately. And just like you were talking about children going through it, domestic violence plays such a role in children's life. One of the statistics I was reading was that over 10 million children each year experience or see some form of domestic violence. And then the most common thing, like you said, sometimes there are no warning signs whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
Like what I went through, I'm sure there was warning signs now thinking about it, and it was something that built up to a more severe moment. But nowadays, you see more and more women, men, and children just suddenly, like there was no signs. There might have been mental abuse or
Mm-hmm.
mental aggression, but there was never a sign. And honestly, I don't think people think it could happen to them until they go through it. Because
Correct.
even I was like, I never crossed my mind that I would be in that situation. And nowadays, I question everything. Like after it happened, I question not my husband because we've been together for so long, but in the past, like when somebody was overly nice to me, that was a trigger, like a sign to me, like, why are
Yeah.
you so nice? Like, what is going on here? Sometimes people try to overcompensate, like by being too much of something, and that should be a
Mm-hmm.
warning sign. Like, I'm not saying nice people are crazy, but
Right.
that is definitely something somebody could be like, if somebody is obsessive over you, I think that is a huge red flag because there's
Agree.
a big difference in caring about somebody and obsessing over somebody.
Yeah. Yes. Because caring about someone is making sure that they're good, they're okay, asking about their day, and making sure that they got their situation all right, got home okay, and stuff like that. I get not a constant. Hey, hi, hello, hi, where are you gonna answer me back? Like, hello.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not easy for me to even I don't know. I'm drawing a fucking blank at the moment. My brain is not functioning right now.
I feel like it's Friday and it's not even Friday yet. It's been that kind of week where things have just
No.
been.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is a stalker is somebody who's quite literally around the corner all the fucking time. It's like you don't know how the fuck they know where you are 24/7. You haven't answered their texts, but yet they're calling all the time, texting you, asking you, you know,
Checking your
101
location.
questions. Yeah, checking to see where you are on Facebook, shit like that. You know what I mean? Like nowadays it's so easy to track people as well.
It's super creepy. Like I turned my shit off. Like
So weird. Yeah.
yeah. I like that when the Snapchat came out with the thing where you can see where people are. No, thank you,
Mm,
Snapchat. I don't care where people are unless it's my children, and that's what Life 360.
exactly. Yeah, no, it's crazy. But what you can go back to what you were talking about. I'm sorry, I took over there and I
No, it's okay because I feel like it resonates like with both of us, like from experiences of things that we've been through and people
Mhm.
that we know who've been affected by it. Like there's people in my life now that are in severely mentally abusive relationships, and sometimes I fear for them. Some of the things they say to me that it's going to become, a
Physical?
physical altercation. And that's another thing. Like, if you, it's really hard to know something's happening to somebody else and not do anything about it. Because
Right.
there's so many women that they'll tell somebody, but they'll be like, you can't tell the cops, you can't tell anybody
Mm-hmm.
because it's just gonna make it worse for me.
Right.
Because that I definitely I can relate to that so much because you are afraid. Not that sometimes, like you said, we forgive, or men or
Mm-hmm.
whoever's in the situation, they forgive and they're like, because they really openly do care about people, and like, or they feel guilty for leaving. That was my biggest thing. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
felt guilty. I felt like if I left, somebody else was gonna get hurt, or he was gonna hurt himself, or it was just gonna
Right.
be a worse situation. So it was like being trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely feel like that's how a lot of people feel in those situations, so they don't feel like it's safe to get help. But like, there's a, like you said, a lot of resources. One resource I know for sure is CAPSI, and that's in the area around me. I think it's a Pennsylvania program, and they have like shelters, they have places where you can go, hotlines you can call that are totally anonymous. They're not allowed to report anything unless it's like life threatening, unless
Mm-hmm.
like you're calling like and it's a 911 emergency. But there's a lot of organizations that can truly help you, and they honestly care because most of them are run by women
Mm-hmm.
or men that have experienced it.
Correct. Yes. And yeah, if you're in that situation, like we said, you know when you're ready.
Mhm.
Like you said, people will tell you, they'll be like, oh, hey, don't say anything. If it's to the point where you're noticing uh, a lot of change in your friend, because that's another thing. Like, if you have a friend or a family member who starts to distance themselves from you, and they're not the same when they're around, then I would ask the question, like, hey, is there something going on? Because typically that's one sign of the partner just kind of excluding that person from the
Yeah,
outside world.
that is part 100% a huge part of domestic violence. Not allowing somebody to talk to other people, not
Hmm.
allowing somebody to go to work, or I know people recently that I've seen, like, their significant other wouldn't let them get a job because they were afraid somebody they'd be talking to somebody or
Hmm.
doing something, or like, or talking bad about them or something, so they weren't allowed to be a normal person. And that's a huge part of abuse, and because you mentally break somebody down to where they're
Hmm.
absolutely nothing. And like, it wasn't a situation where I wasn't allowed to work and stuff because I was the only one working and I was the only one paying for anything. And my parents at the time, they had moved across the country. So somebody had to pay for stuff for us. So it wasn't,
Correct.
but I didn't hang out with anybody, not unless he was there. And if I did hang out with anybody, he was questioning everything. If I
Hmm.
was talking to anybody, male or female, like, it was always not appropriate, or he would assume that me and my sister were talking shit about him. Like, it was very much an isolation thing.
Oh yeah, that's like the number one. Like, they just want to get you to themselves so that, yeah, like, you can't talk and you can't, what they think in their head is going on, you know?
Hmm.
Like, oh, she's gonna tell, or she's gonna talk to someone, she's gonna tell, or he's gonna tell, and and then they're gonna leave me, and I can't have that.
Yeah. Or if you try to leave, it gets worse, because that's definitely what happened to me. I definitely tried to leave and he like hijacked my car and it was a whole thing. And I probably could have died, but I was one of the lucky ones who didn't. And honestly, the fear from leaving somebody in that situation is a different kind of anxiety than I've ever experienced in my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
I can understand why people wouldn't want to, but if you, like you said, people are going to do it when they're ready, and if they're not ready, like, you can't force them. But then there's part of you where you're like, why can't I force somebody out of that situation? Why can't I
Hmm.
save somebody when we've seen so much of it? We can't. And it sucks. It sucks knowing people are suffering and you can't do anything about it. Not like saying, if I knew somebody was in a severely, like, somebody could lose their life, I would 100%
Oh
report
yeah,
the person. But
absolutely.
I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people don't. I feel like there's people out there
Mm.
that have like post traumatic stress, or other issues, postpartum, all of that stuff, and people see the warning signs coming to something very severe happening and they don't do anything about it. And that's very unfortunate
Right.
because I feel like
So,
you could save a life.
correct.
Sorry.
No, 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 you're good. So, yeah, that's definitely true. And we're speaking mostly about adults in this situation. If you see it and you notice it, then yeah, you should definitely respond and you should definitely um do something about it. Especially if it's children, if you see abuse occurring and there's a child involved, then you should definitely recognize the situation. You should respond and then refer. So those are the three R's that I'm seeing here. And this is by the Nationwide Children's website. You know, we want to try to break the cycle here. I think that it's important that we do follow those three R's, which is recognize. So you recognize the signs and the behaviors of the abuse. And like we said before, the abuse can be physical, emotional, verbal, sexual, financial, and resource restrictive, which is isolating them. Um, they all like all those types of abuse have a commonality, which is just power and control. So once you've recognized that, you know, respond. So you do your part, be an active bystander by responding appropriately to the abuse. Try to remain calm and pay attention to your body language. You don't have all the answers, and that's okay. If someone discloses abuse, start with believing them, which is another big thing. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of people don't believe. And mostly I hate to say it, you know, like mostly people who are family members who have seen their siblings or their daughters or sons in these situations before. And, you know, when you're in situations like that, sometimes you don't come out completely great.
Mhm.
You have so much trauma, and sometimes you do take on some habits that you shouldn't. And there's a lot of people who will act out because of the situations that they're in, and they won't get believed. So just believe them if they're telling you something is happening. It's very important to consider your own safety also. So if for some reason you feel like the situation may escalate or become violent or dangerous, then it would be appropriate to call 911. But the last R is refer. So you want to refer these people to resources that are available locally and nationally to help the victims of abuse. So it says here, for example, if you suspect child abuse and neglect, did you know that anyone can make a report anonymously to a Child Protective Service Agency by calling 1-800-422-4453. Again, that's 1-800-422-4453. And that is anonymously. You can put in a tip. And I believe that that is nationally.
I believe it is too.
So, yeah. And it says here, okay, I'm sorry. So it's if you know a teen or a young adult who might be in an unhealthy or abusive relationship, they can check out Love is Respect, where advocates are available 24/7 via, and there's a phone number, 1-866-331-9474. And I'll put these numbers and this website up uh, in the description box when we're done and we upload this as well, so it's there. But there's also a national domestic violence hotline that you can call, or you can text these places as well.
Mhm.
So Love is Respect, you could text Love is, and there's a 22522, and they do live chat. So there's also that way as well if you can't, you know, get on a phone if you're the person in that situation. But there's also, like I said, the National Domestic Violence Hotline that you can text as well. And they can do live chat through text. And I'll make sure to put all that information, like I said, in the description box, just so that it's there.
I just
And
had
just,
those same. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, did you have that same thing?
That's
Sorry.
okay. Great minds
Sorry.
think alike.
But yeah, it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people. Half of us are being abused in some type of way, shape, or form. It's sick, it's saddening, it's hard to talk about, but we should be breaking the cycle because our next generation, I mean, with everything else we got going on, let's at least make it so that they have a loving home. You know what I mean? Don't have to have kids growing up in that violence and abuse to then go and do it to their family as well.
Or like mental abuse. I definitely think that like a big rule in my house is like if we do have to argue, we don't argue in front of the kids because
Hmm.
in my husband's mind, he wants to role model what a male should be for his children. Like
Hmm.
they're females, he wants them to know like,
This
you
is how a
shouldn't
man
accept
should be. Yeah.
should be. Now, neither one of us are perfect, so we definitely
No.
make mistakes. But and in my mind, I want my daughters to know, and I know what that our two oldest, their mom wants them to know, like, don't put up with anything. Like you are who you are and you deserve a certain amount of respect. You deserve to be valued. So at the
Hmm.
same time, we should be teaching our kids and teaching our friends and like reinforcing, if you don't feel valued, if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel like your mental health is in a good place, then that should be a sign that you should be moving on to something different or just letting go and like being with yourself and enjoying your
Hmm.
life because mental health is where it all starts.
Absolutely. I
And just
agree.
in case anybody doesn't know, I'm pretty sure it's all of the United States, but you can also text 911 if you're in a scary situation. You can text 911. They can track your location and they can help you out of a more severe situation like if you don't have time to talk or you don't have the resources or you're not afraid. If something is really bad, you can text
Hmm.
911. You do not have to call them.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. But then again, when you're in that type of situation, it may not even occur to you. You know what I mean?
You might be in survivor mode.
It's kind of like the fight or flight.
Mhm.
Just kind of instilled in you. I know a lot about that. That's instilled in me, fight or flight. So I completely understand, like, if that's something, but it is good to know, just make sure that it's something that you have as well. You don't have to necessarily call. You can text 911.
I just think overall this is just like there's so many it's such a broad topic because
Hmm.
it's so common unfortunately in women, men, children, families, physical, mental, sexual, psychological, everything. I mean, I guess mental and psychological are the same thing, but abuse is so common and it might not just be like your partner, it might be your parents, like there might be young
Hmm.
women listening to us on hearing this and they're like, my parents break me down every day. I don't feel like I'm in a safe environment. Unfortunately, it's just a scary world we live in, and you should be very conscious of your surroundings. And not just
Absolutely.
because, and just because somebody is your parent, your husband, your wife, your cousin, whoever is abusing you, it doesn't make it okay.
It is
And it doesn't,
never okay.
and it like it just because they were abused, it doesn't make it okay for them to pass that along either.
No, it does not. Yeah, no, it does not. Broke the cycle with myself. I do not hit my kids, and if my mother was alive, she would probably be hysterically laughing, like whatever, because growing up, that's just it wasn't abuse, guys. It was
No,
just
it
because
was it was the
I
era we
deserved
lived
it.
in.
But
I definitely got my ass beat when I was growing up.
I'm not saying that I was abused by my parents. No, 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 no. I'm just saying that. I don't. I tread very lightly with my kids when it comes to daycares and schools and buses and stuff like that, like going out in public.
Hmm.
I am very aware of my surroundings. I am very aware of everything, who my kids are hanging out with, who they spend the night with, because it's just not anybody. That's
Hmm.
just how I've instilled it. And it's not because I don't want my kids to live a normal life, because it is a normal life. It's just because I'm very cautious because I don't know people. that well. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Besides like my family.
Mhm.
So yeah, with the type of abuse that I went through as a child, I'm very, very cautious of my children now. And I feel like I broke the cycle because I'm not the same person that I was. I want to say maybe even like 5 years ago. Let's just be
Mhm.
honest here. But I typically don't, I try not to yell at them. I do raise my voice. They're boys. They like to jump off the top of the couch and do wrestling moves into the table. So
Mhm.
sometimes a loud voice is needed, but
I think
no.
yelling and disciplining your children, because there's a lot of yelling in my house. I'm not gonna lie. I am not the parent that does not yell at my kid because my daughter is so. God, my mom says it to me as a child, but I don't believe I was this freaking bad. I'm just gonna say. But like, I feel a lot of things I've been reading just on the psychological part. If your kid is loud, if your kid is doing things they are not supposed to be doing, and they feel safe with you,
They're
like they
safe.
feel they know that they can f around and find out, like they
Hmm.
know because they know the finding out isn't as bad as like you're gonna raise your voice, but you know. As much as you want to spank their ass, sometimes you're not going to spank their ass. Like,
No.
I mean, no. My
Mm.
daughter knows. Like, and she laughs in my face is the worst part, I think. She just laughs at me like, Mommy, haha, look at me.
Yeah, that's how kids are.
Yeah. But if they feel safe, that's how they're gonna be.
They're going to be happy. They're going to be bouncing off the walls if
They're
they
gonna
feel
test
safe with
boundaries.
you. Hmm. Trust me, I know my oldest Ben, he's been doing this thing lately where he'll be like, "Mother," and I'm like, "Boy."
Yeah, see, my 3-year-old has heard me say the F word maybe a few times. I'm not gonna lie. So the one day we're in the kitchen, it's me and the two oldest and the baby, and they're all eating lunch, and Gabriella's like, "What the fuck is that?" And I'm like, "What? Why? We don't say that." She says, "We don't say that, mommy." I think
It's just the funniest.
every one of our daughters have accidentally cursed in front of us at a very young age, and that's like, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't curse as much. But I grew up in a house where that's how like learned behaviors. My parents cursed all the time. You know my mother, like
Hmm.
like
I do. I thought
I
I had a
can't.
sailor mouth.
Right? Like, I try, but I really think that people, and when it comes to this abuse situation, though, with the CYS and everything, there's often cases in CYS where people can cover up abuse and people can make things look good because the CYS system is complicated and busy, and they can't always, nor do they always care enough, I think,
Mm.
to come in and do the right thing because it's just such a mess to pull kids from homes and break up families and find there's so many kids already looking for homes or in the system. So I think our kids
It
are sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I'd say that whole system definitely needs cleaned up.
I do. And I think, and I'm not going to say any names of government officials here, but I
Mhm.
think there should be some focus on that.
Focus on the real matter.
Yeah. No
Just
names, though.
saying.
No
But
names.
yeah, yeah, it definitely needs, and that's something that I feel like should be in the cards and it's not. And it's basically just because nobody cares, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, not saying that us people don't care, because we obviously we do, but the
Government
people
officials.
who need to care don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if it costs more money to do things. And I think trying to find homes for all these kids, and I really don't know how. I've never been a foster child, but I don't think there's
Mm-mm.
enough focus on mental health in the system and helping these kids recover from abuse and tragic situations, mental, physical abuse,
Yeah.
whatever they may go through. I feel like this country, in all aspects of things that are important like this, really needs to take a 360.
There's a lot of things that we should be focusing on that we are
We
not,
should
but
be president together.
we would never get elected.
I don't know. A lot of people like us.
We're
Maybe not
women.
enough to run the country, but I think that we have some valid.
No, we get period, so that's a big ass no.
We'll just take those weeks off. Like, take those weeks
No,
off.
let me stop. Let me stop. No, trying to make light here, but no, honestly, guys, this was a tough topic to talk about. And for those of you who are survivors and are healing, I applaud you. You've done the right thing and you're thriving in life, no matter where you may be, or, no matter what you feel in this situation, you should be proud of the fact that you took the step to walk away. That's a big deal.
And I just want to add to that. One thing is if you have walked away and you're still surviving and you're recovering, give yourself time. Like, give
Hmm.
yourself time to process everything, get over everything, you know, live for yourself for once, especially if you were in one of those situations where you felt like you couldn't live your own life. Like, I was single for 5 years before I met, maybe it was longer than that, but before I met my husband, I gave myself time. There were people that I talked to or associated with, but there was never a person or circumstance, I think, where I was ready for a long time. And like, I think that
Hmm.
you should give yourself space to heal because you deserve it. Like, you deserve to live your life for yourself.
Absolutely agree.
And that's so important for your mental health.
Absolutely agree. Take that time. Take that time, but be proud. Be
Yeah. Be
proud. Be
proud and
proud.
heal. Yeah.
You are doing the right thing and you no longer have that leash attached to you.
Hmm.
Because let's just be honest, that's pretty much what it is. So, for everyone who's still in that situation or, need help, I'm gonna put all the information that we talked about today in the description box if you're ready. If you're not, we are here. I mean, we're not doctors, we're not psychiatrists or
Psychiatrist.
anything,
No.
but if you just don't know where to go, we can refer you somewhere that would help within the facilities of where you live.
Yeah. We have an email address too. That's on
Hmm.
our page. If you feel like you want to reach out, or if you want to share your personal story, even if it's not something you want talked about on the air, you just want to share, you know, the strength and the things you've overcome. We're happy to listen. And again, like not
Absolutely.
Nani said, we'll have the resources on the page, and you can reach out to us personally if you need to.
Absolutely.
And I just want to reference like the places that I talked about for my for legal purposes. Where I got my information was breakthecycle.org, I believe, or breakthecycle.com, one of the two. And then the Pennsylvania government site, I got a lot of information from there. It is just pa.gov, and you just search under domestic violence and then give you all the statistics and facts and those resources that Nani's talking about.
Yes. So I think that's gonna end it for today's episode, guys. This was, like I said, a difficult one, and
Mm-hmm.
some people maybe like, why are you guys talking about that? Well, we've both experienced some form of abuse in our life, and it all ties in together. And we're allowed to talk about what the fuck we want to talk about. It's our right. And if we want
Our
to
show.
yeah, if we want to advocate and stand up for people and help people, we have the right to do so.
And I also think it's important to shine light on shitty things. Like, the world is not all fucking sunshine and daisies. People, like, if you don't address the issues, there are always going to be issues.
Exactly. But with that, my friends, stay kind or be kind and stay humble because we are all going through something that nobody sees.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind the next time you want to say something really nasty to somebody else. Just know that they may be going through something. But with that, we sign off. And like I said, next week we will be doing feminism. And we're actually going to do like a little debate. We have a special guest coming on. He's not that special, but it's my brother. My brother will be coming on, and he will be the opposite side of feminism. Though he said we may be surprised. So let's see. Not sure. But yeah, have a
It'll
good
be
night.
interesting.
Yeah, have a good night, guys. Remember to like, share, subscribe. We're here. We're going to be here every Thursday. No, sorry, every Friday at 11. We
Yeah.
record on Thursdays. But all right, well, we'll see you later.